Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, I want to share something deeply personal with you. This is not just a story. This is my honest English journey. From zero to fluent. From fear to confidence. From silence to self-expression. If you're learning English right now, I want you to hear every word. Not because I'm special, but because if I can do it, so can you. Let's start at the beginning. Chapter 1. The beginning of my journey. I didn't grow up speaking English. In fact, for a long time, the language felt like a secret code that only other people understood. I heard it in movies, on TV, in music. It sounded cool, sometimes even magical, but completely out of reach. The letters looked familiar, but the way people spoke? The speed, the accent, the slang, it all made me freeze. It was like they were flying while I was crawling. My first experience with English was in school. I remember sitting at my desk, staring at the textbook, confused and frustrated. I didn't understand why some words sounded different than how they were spelled. Though, enough, island. Why was the S silent? Why did oof have so many sounds? Nothing made sense. In class, I was afraid to speak. I didn't want to be laughed at. I didn't want to make a mistake. So I stayed quiet. I would memorize words for tests, get decent grades, but deep inside, I knew I wasn't learning. I wasn't speaking. I wasn't connecting. I was just surviving. Then came a turning point. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some big event. It was a small moment, but a powerful one. I was watching a movie one evening. I don't remember the name, but I remember the feeling. There was a line in the film, simple words, but they hit me. I repeated them out loud. I heard my own voice speaking English. For the first time, it didn't sound terrible. It didn't sound perfect either, but it felt possible. That was the spark. From that night, I made a quiet promise to myself. I was going to learn English. For real. Not just to pass exams, but to actually speak it. To understand it. To feel it. I wanted to order food in English without panic. I wanted to watch shows without subtitles. I wanted to write my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, in English. I didn't know how long it would take. I didn't know if I would ever sound fluent. But I was ready to start. In the beginning, I tried everything. I downloaded apps, watched YouTube tutorials, listened to slow podcasts, and followed grammar accounts on social media. I was excited, but also overwhelmed. There was too much information, too many methods. Some days, I would study for hours. Other days, I felt lost and unmotivated. The journey didn't feel smooth. It felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. But even in the confusion, something had changed. I was no longer afraid of English. I had made peace with being a beginner. I accepted that I would sound awkward. I accepted that people might not understand me. I accepted that I would have to repeat myself. And once I accepted those things, something magical happened. I started improving. Slowly, I built habits. I wrote simple sentences every morning. I kept a journal, even if it was full of grammar mistakes. I shadowed native speakers from YouTube videos. I whispered sentences to myself when I was alone. I talked to the mirror like it was my conversation partner. I wasn't perfect, but I was practicing. Every single day. Looking back now, I realize something important. The hardest part of learning English wasn't grammar. It wasn't pronunciation. It wasn't even vocabulary. It was mindset. It was getting past my fear. It was choosing to believe that I could learn. That belief, that tiny flame of hope, was the beginning of everything. This is just the start of my journey. In the next chapter, I'll talk about the struggles, the awkward moments, the times I wanted to quit. Because trust me, there were many. But every challenge was a lesson. Every mistake was a step forward. And I want to share it all with you. Thank you for being here. Stick around, because we're just getting started. Chapter 2: Struggles, Embarrassment, and Self-Doubt. Learning English wasn't always inspiring. It wasn't always fun. In fact, some days were the complete opposite. After that first spark of motivation, I thought things would get easier. I thought maybe I had unlocked some kind of secret, that now I would just improve every day and feel more confident with every word. But that's not what happened. Not at all. Soon after I started taking English more seriously, I ran into a wall. Not just one, but many walls. Some made of grammar. Some made of fear. But the biggest wall was inside my own head: self-doubt. I remember one of my earliest attempts at speaking with a native English speaker. My heart was pounding. My hands were cold. I had practiced the sentence so many times in my head. I knew what I wanted to say. But when I opened my mouth, the words came out broken, awkward, and slow. The person smiled politely, but I could see the confusion in their eyes. They didn't understand me. I felt my face turn red. I laughed nervously and tried to explain again. My brain went blank. I felt stupid. That night, I almost gave up. I kept thinking, maybe I'm just not good at this. Maybe English isn't for me. I replayed the conversation over and over in my head, hearing every mistake louder than the next. That one small interaction made me question everything. And that wasn't the only time. There were many similar moments. Times when I misunderstood a joke and laughed at the wrong part. Times when I sent a message with a big grammar mistake and felt embarrassed afterward. Times when I couldn't find the right word and ended up saying something completely wrong. Every mistake felt personal. Every awkward pause felt like proof that I wasn't good enough. But here's the truth I want you to hear. Mistakes are part of the process. And I mean that deeply. Not just as a motivational phrase. I mean it as something real. Because if I didn't make those embarrassing mistakes, I wouldn't have grown. I remember struggling with pronunciation a lot. That T sound was a nightmare. I would say tree instead of three, or thank you instead of thank you. People would sometimes correct me, and that correction would sting. It felt like a spotlight on my weakness. But slowly, I began to see those moments not as failures, but as feedback. I wasn't being judged. I was being helped. It took time to change my perspective. In the beginning, every mistake felt like proof that I wasn't progressing. But over time, I began to see every mistake as a sign that I was trying. I was putting myself out there. I was speaking. I was learning. That realization changed everything for me. Another big struggle was comparing myself to others. I'd watch videos of fluent English speakers and feel hopeless. I would hear someone speak with perfect grammar and wonder why I couldn't sound like that. I would read comments online and feel like I was far behind. Social media didn't help. Everyone seemed so confident, so polished. I forgot that most people only show their best moments. I didn't see their struggles. I didn't hear their first awkward sentences. I didn't witness their self-doubt. Eventually, I had to learn to stop comparing. My journey is mine. Your journey is yours. We all start at different places. We all move at different speeds. What matters is not how fast you go, but that you keep going. One thing that really helped me during this phase was reminding myself why I started. I didn't start learning English to be perfect. I started to communicate. I started to connect. I started to open new doors in life. I had to let go of the pressure to be flawless and focus on being fearless instead. Self-doubt didn't disappear overnight. It still shows up sometimes. Even now, I make mistakes. I still forget words. I still ask people to repeat things. But now, I don't let those moments stop me. I see them as steps forward, not setbacks. If you're in that struggle phase right now, if you're doubting yourself, feeling embarrassed, or thinking about giving up, I want you to know you're not alone. I've been there. Every fluent speaker you've ever heard has been there. It's okay to feel discouraged. But don't stop. You're learning. You're growing. And one day, you'll look back and be proud that you didn't quit. In the next chapter, I'll share how I started finding methods that actually worked for me. Not the ones everyone talks about, but the ones that fit my lifestyle, my goals, and my personality. Because once I stopped trying to follow every tip and started focusing on what worked for me, things began to change. Stay with me, this journey is just getting good. Chapter 3. Discovering what works for me. After pushing through those early struggles, the embarrassment, the self-doubt, the feeling of being stuck, I realized something very important. There is no single perfect way to learn English. I used to believe there was. I used to think maybe I was just missing the right method, the right app, the right course. I thought if I could just find the perfect way, then everything would become easy. So, like many learners, I kept switching. One week it was grammar drills. The next week it was vocabulary flashcards. Then I would try watching English TV shows with subtitles. Then without subtitles. Then I'd stop watching completely because I felt overwhelmed. It was like being on a boat, trying to sail in every direction at once, and not really moving at all. What changed everything for me was when I finally took a step back and asked myself a simple question: what actually helps me learn? Not what works for other people. Not what the internet says is best. But what works for me, for my personality, my lifestyle, my goals. The answer wasn't immediate, but little by little, I started paying attention to what helped me feel more confident. I realized I was trying to learn like a student, but what I needed was to learn like a real person. One of the first things I discovered was the power of listening. I stopped worrying about understanding every single word. Instead, I focused on rhythm, tone, and feeling. I started listening to English podcasts, but not like homework. I would listen while walking, cooking, or lying in bed. Sometimes I only caught a few words, sometimes whole sentences. But I stayed consistent. And slowly, without even noticing it, my ears got used to the sounds of English. Then, I found shadowing. If you don't know what that is, it's when you repeat after a native speaker, trying to match their tone, pronunciation, and speed. I would take short clips from YouTube or my favorite shows and play one sentence at a time. Pause. Repeat. Again. And again. It felt awkward at first. But it worked. My pronunciation improved. My confidence grew. It made me feel like I was speaking with someone, not just to myself. Reading was another game changer, but not textbooks. I started reading things I enjoyed. Short stories, song lyrics, blog posts about things I cared about. I stopped worrying about big fancy words. If I didn't understand something, I guessed from the context or looked it up, but I didn't let it stop me. Reading became a habit, not a task. Speaking still scared me, but I found creative ways to practice. I didn't have a native English speaker in my life to talk to regularly, so I became my own speaking partner. I'd talk to myself, describe what I was doing, tell little stories in my head. I even recorded voice notes on my phone, just to hear how I sounded. At first, it felt strange, but over time, it felt natural. And that's how fluency grows, through familiarity. I also realized I needed to relax about grammar. Not ignore it completely, but not obsess over it. I used to stop every time I wasn't sure about a tense or preposition. Now I understand. Grammar is like a map. It helps, but you don't need to know every detail to start walking. I gave myself permission to make grammar mistakes. And you know what? People still understood me. Communication still happened. The world didn't end. Another thing I did was set small, personal goals. Not big goals like be fluent in 6 months. That only made me feel pressured. Instead, I'd aim for things like learn 5 new phrases this week, or watch one English video and write 3 sentences about it. Small wins. And over time, they added up to big progress. And maybe most importantly, I made English a part of my life, not just my study routine. I changed my phone language to English. I followed English-speaking creators on social media. I commented on posts in English, even if I made mistakes. I let English surround me, gently, naturally. Discovering what worked for me didn't happen overnight. It took time, trial, and error. But once I stopped copying everyone else's methods and started listening to myself, learning became smoother, more enjoyable, more real. So if you're listening to this and feeling lost in the sea of learning advice, I want you to pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what actually helps me learn? What makes me feel connected, interested, and excited? Because that's the method you should follow. The one that feels right for you. In the next chapter, I'll talk about something that truly changed my journey, something more important than any tool or technique. It's the secret ingredient in every successful language story: consistency. And I'll tell you how I made it a habit without burning out or giving up. Stay tuned. You're doing better than you think. Chapter 4. Consistency over perfection. If I had to choose one word, just one word, that describes how I really made progress in English, it would be consistency. Not talent, not memory, not intelligence, not even confidence. It was the simple act of showing up. Again, and again, and again. At first, I didn't realize how powerful this was. Like many learners, I believed that big progress came from big effort. So I'd study for 3 hours on a Saturday. I'd watch 5 English videos in a row. I'd try to memorize 20 new words in one sitting. It felt intense. It felt productive. But then Monday would come. I'd be tired. I'd skip studying. Tuesday, I'd forget the words I learned. Wednesday, I'd feel frustrated. And suddenly, a whole week would pass with 0 English practice. That cycle happened more than once. Big effort followed by big burnout. And every time I stopped, I felt like I had to start all over again. Eventually, I realized the real key wasn't doing a lot sometimes. It was doing a little all the time. So I changed my approach. I told myself, even if it's just 5 minutes, do something in English every day. And I meant it. Some days, I only watched a short video. Other days, I just read a quote or repeated a sentence out loud. It didn't feel impressive. It didn't feel fast. But after a few weeks, I noticed something amazing. My listening had improved. My speaking felt smoother. I wasn't translating in my head as much. Things were sticking. Consistency was working. You see, the brain loves patterns. It doesn't need pressure. It needs repetition. When you touch English every day, even in small ways, it becomes a part of your mental rhythm. You stop feeling like a student and start feeling like a user of the language. One thing that helped me stay consistent was creating a mini routine. Nothing fancy. Just a few habits I could stick to. In the morning, I would listen to a short podcast while getting ready. During lunch, I'd read a paragraph or 2 of something in English. In the evening, I'd talk to myself out loud for 5 minutes, about anything. My day. My plans. A dream. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I showed up. Daily. Another thing that helped was tracking my habits, but in a very simple way. I had a calendar. And every day I did something in English, I put a small check mark. That visual reminder kept me going. I didn't want to break the chain. Some days the only thing I did was read a quote or write a few words, but I still showed up. Now I want to talk about perfection, because here's the truth. Chasing perfection kills consistency. Every time I thought, I must speak without mistakes, I hesitated. Every time I thought, I have to understand everything, I got discouraged. I set impossible goals, and when I couldn't meet them, I stopped trying. But once I told myself, it's okay to speak with mistakes. It's okay to forget words. It's okay to not understand everything. I finally gave myself permission to keep going. I want to tell you something that changed the way I saw my progress. Progress is not loud. It's quiet. It's not a big moment. It's not a dramatic breakthrough. It's a sentence that feels easier. A word you suddenly remember. A time when you understand a joke without thinking too hard. These are the signs. And they come with time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep moving. There were days when I felt like I wasn't improving at all. But later, I would realize I could now say things I couldn't say a month ago. I could now understand accents that used to confuse me. That progress was invisible, but it was real. And that's the beautiful part of consistency. It builds results while you're not even noticing. So my advice is simple. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait to feel motivated. Don't wait to have 1 full hour to study. Start with 5 minutes, 1 word, 1 sentence, and build from there. If you're tired, do something small. If you're busy, listen while you work. If you're discouraged, just review something you already know. But don't stop. Because showing up, even in a tiny way, is a victory. And every victory builds another. In the next chapter, I'll share the best part of this journey, the breakthroughs, the moments that made me realize, wow, I'm actually learning this language. These moments weren't always big, but they were unforgettable. And they reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. You won't want to miss it. Chapter 5. Breakthrough Moments and Little Wins. After weeks, months, even years of slow and steady effort, something started to happen. It didn't arrive like lightning. It didn't feel magical at first. But one day, I noticed something. I was thinking in English. Not every thought. Not every sentence. But it was there, naturally, without effort. I didn't translate from my native language. I just thought. That was one of my first breakthrough moments. But let me be clear, breakthroughs in language learning are often small. They don't come with fireworks. They don't shout, "Congratulations." Most of the time, they whisper. They sneak in quietly. They feel ordinary on the outside, but extraordinary on the inside. I remember the first time I ordered food in English without fear. It was a simple order. Nothing complex. But I didn't freeze. I didn't overthink. I just spoke. The words came out smoothly. The person understood me. And I walked away feeling 10 feet tall. It was such a small thing, but I was smiling for hours. Another little win came when I watched a movie and understood full scenes without subtitles. It wasn't a kid's movie. It wasn't slow. It was a regular film, with fast dialogue, jokes, and emotions. I didn't understand everything, but I followed the story. I laughed at the jokes. And most importantly, I didn't feel lost. That moment told me, you're really learning. There was another time when I helped someone who didn't speak the local language. They were lost, asking for directions in English. People around them looked confused. But I understood. I stepped in. I gave directions. And the look on their face, it was like I had saved their day. That interaction lasted maybe 2 minutes. But in that moment I felt useful, capable, fluent. And then came the first time I had a full conversation in English. Not a short reply. Not a prepared sentence. A real conversation. Back and forth. Questions. Laughter. Reactions. I didn't rehearse. I didn't pause too long. I just spoke. And when it ended, I thought to myself, did that really just happen? That was the day I cried happy tears. Not because I was fluent, but because I had crossed a line I thought I'd never reach. I had connected with someone, heart to heart, in a language that once felt impossible to me. Here's what I've learned from these moments. Success doesn't always look the way you expect. You may be waiting for a certificate, a compliment, a perfect test score. But real success in language learning is in the moments when you use the language to live. It's when you watch your favorite YouTuber and understand their sarcasm. It's when you read a comment and laugh out loud. It's when you ask for help and you're understood. It's when someone says, "Your English is really good," and you finally believe it. Every little win matters. Every sentence spoken. Every new word remembered. Every time you understood someone without asking them to repeat. These are your trophies. These are your medals. Collect them. I started writing down my little wins in a notebook. Not just big ones. Everything. I wrote a full paragraph without using a translator. I understood a song lyric. I guessed the meaning of a new word correctly. At first, it felt silly, but when I felt stuck or discouraged, I would read those pages. And I'd remember, I am improving, even if I don't see it every day. Language learning is full of ups and downs. You'll have great days. You'll have tough days. But those little wins, they are proof. Proof that you're becoming the person you set out to be. So take a moment right now to think of your own little wins. Maybe you're listening to this podcast and understanding most of it. That's a win. Maybe you read an article this week. Maybe you learned a new phrase and used it. These moments matter more than you think. In the next chapter, I'll talk about how I stayed motivated, especially when I felt like giving up. Because motivation isn't something you always have. Sometimes you have to create it. And I'll share the strategies I used to keep going, even when progress felt slow. You're not alone in this journey. Every step forward counts. Chapter 6. How I Stay Motivated. Let's be honest. Motivation doesn't always stay with you. In the beginning, it's exciting. A new language, a new challenge, a new goal. You're full of energy. You make big plans. You imagine yourself speaking fluently, traveling, meeting new people, and understanding everything with ease. But after a while, that energy fades. You hit walls. You repeat the same words again and again. You forget things. You feel like you're not moving. And then that question creeps in. Why am I even doing this? I've been there more times than I can count. So today I want to share the truth about motivation, what helped me stay on track, even during the low points. Because if you're going to reach fluency, motivation isn't something you can wait for. It's something you build, moment by moment. First, I learned to connect English to my life. Not just as a school subject, not just as a career goal, but as something personal, something emotional. For example, I love music. So I started learning the lyrics of songs I already loved, but in English. I translated them. I memorized them. I sang them out loud. It made me feel closer to the language, and it didn't feel like studying. It felt like fun. I also found role models. Real people, not celebrities, just other learners like me who had reached a level I admired. People who weren't perfect but who could express themselves. When I heard their stories, I didn't feel jealous. I felt hopeful. Because if they could do it, so could I. Another thing I did was set clear, emotional goals. Not just learn English or be fluent, but deeper reasons. I wanted to connect with people around the world. I wanted to read books I couldn't read before. I wanted to have the freedom to travel, to grow, to understand. And on the hard days, I would remind myself of those reasons. They were like a light in the dark. One of the biggest changes I made was learning to celebrate small wins. Motivation doesn't come from huge success. It comes from noticing progress. I would literally say out loud, "Yes," when I understood a new phrase. I'd smile when I could follow a podcast episode without getting lost. I started treating every little improvement like a big achievement, because honestly, it is. I also created an environment that inspired me. I changed my phone to English. I followed creators who posted content in English. I joined online communities where people practiced together. Even if I didn't post, I felt like part of something. That gave me a sense of belonging. I wasn't learning alone. And let me tell you about one unexpected motivation booster, teaching what I learned. No, I wasn't a teacher, but I'd explain new words or phrases to friends who were also learning. I'd share tips. I'd say, "Hey, this worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you." That made me feel proud of my progress. It reminded me how far I had come. But maybe the most important thing I did for my motivation was learning to be kind to myself. There were days when I didn't study. There were weeks when I felt stuck. There were moments I made silly mistakes. Before, I used to feel guilty or ashamed. But eventually, I started saying, "It's okay. You're still learning. You're still trying. That's what matters." I treated myself the way I would treat a friend, with patience, with encouragement, with respect. And you know what? That made all the difference. Motivation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just showing up on a tired day and doing 5 minutes of practice. Sometimes it's just saying, "I'll try again tomorrow." That quiet determination is more powerful than any motivational speech. So if you're struggling with motivation, here's what I want you to remember. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to study for hours. You just need to keep moving forward, step by step, word by word. You are building something beautiful, even if you don't see the full picture yet. In the final chapter, I'll bring everything together. I'll share my personal advice, what I wish someone told me when I was starting this journey. Because now, after everything, I finally understand what it really means to go from zero to fluent. Let's finish this journey strong. Chapter 7. Conclusion plus my advice to every English learner. And now, we've reached the end of the story. But really, it's not the end. It's just a pause. A deep breath before the next step. Because learning a language, especially something as rich and wide as English, isn't a destination. It's a journey. And like every journey, it has its seasons. Looking back, from the moment I couldn't even introduce myself to now, where I can speak, listen, understand, and express myself in English, I feel a mix of pride, peace, and gratitude. I'm proud of every moment I kept going, even when it was hard. I'm at peace with all the mistakes I made along the way. And I'm deeply grateful for the people, resources, and moments that helped me grow. I didn't become fluent because I was gifted. I didn't do it because I found some secret method. I did it because I didn't stop. So here's my advice to you, every English learner, wherever you are in the world, no matter your age, your background, or how long you've been learning. 1. Be patient with yourself. Fluency takes time. It's not a race. It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than you were yesterday. 2. Make English part of your daily life. Not just in textbooks, but in your phone, your hobbies, your conversations. Let English live with you, not just near you. 3. Speak, even when it's uncomfortable. The first sentences will be awkward. That's normal. But the more you speak, the stronger you become. Don't wait until you're ready. Start before you feel ready. 4. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are not signs of failure. They are proof that you're doing the work. If you're not making mistakes, you're not growing. Be proud of them. 5. Celebrate the small wins. Every new word remembered. Every time you understand a sentence. Every conversation. Those are victories. Recognize them. Write them down. Smile about them. 6. Find what works for you. There's no one-size-fits-all method. Try things. Keep what helps. Let go of what doesn't. Learning should feel alive, not like a punishment. 7. Surround yourself with English. Watch, listen, read, think, dream in English. The more you're exposed to it, the more natural it becomes. Create an environment where English feels familiar. 8. And finally, never give up. There will be bad days. There will be slow weeks. There will be times when you feel like you're not improving. But remember this, progress is not always visible, but it's always happening. Even when you don't feel it. Even when you can't see it. If you're showing up, you are moving forward. And that's enough. You are enough. And one day, not too far from now, you'll have your own breakthrough moment. You'll speak without fear. You'll understand without effort. You'll help someone else who's just starting their journey. And you'll say, I remember when I was in your shoes. That's the beauty of learning. It's not just about gaining a skill. It's about becoming someone new, stronger, braver, more open to the world. So wherever you are on your path, keep walking. You are not behind. You are not slow. You are becoming. Thank you for listening to my story. If it inspired you, if it made you feel seen or understood, or if you simply enjoyed practicing your English with me, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this with someone who needs encouragement today. Like the video, subscribe to this channel, and join the Motivated Mind Zone, where English learning meets real-life inspiration. Together we grow. Together we learn. And step by step we become fluent. Until next time, keep believing in yourself. You're doing better than you think.